Ethan Miller slumped in his chair, the glow of his computer screen reflecting in his tired eyes. The cursor blinked mockingly at him, reminding him of the unfinished essay due in 2 hours. Outside his window, the late afternoon sun bathed the neighborhood in golden light, but he barely noticed. The world felt distant, as if he were watching life through a glass wall. "Ethan, can you help me with this?" came a small, insistent voice. His younger sister, Lily, stood in the doorway holding a half-built model rocket, her wide brown eyes, full of hope, pierced through his fog of exhaustion. "I'm busy, Lily," he muttered without looking up, fingers still tapping the keyboard. Her shoulders slumped, and she walked away quietly. Ethan heard the faint click of the door closing, and a pang of guilt lodged in his chest. But he shoved it aside. After all, he'd had a long day, or rather, a long week of nothing but video games, leftover pizza, and skipped homework. Ethan wasn't lazy, at least not entirely. He just felt trapped in a cycle he couldn't break. Each morning he woke up determined to change something: exercise, eat healthier, get ahead in school, but by noon, the energy drained from him, replaced by excuses and old habits. He had tried everything: gym memberships, calorie tracking apps, strict diets, late-night study schedules. Nothing worked. He leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight, and stared at the ceiling. He thought of his failed attempts, 2 weeks of jogging that ended in soreness and fatigue, a month-long streak of healthy breakfasts that collapsed when school started, nights spent promising himself he'd cut down on gaming only to find himself staring at the screen until 2 a.m. "I can't do this," he muttered. "I'm just weak." Then came Saturday. Ethan had promised Lily he'd help her build the rocket properly. But after a morning spent sleeping in and snacking on chips, he hadn't moved from the couch. He watched her struggle from across the living room, feeling a hollow knot in his stomach. She glanced at him again, hopeful. He tried to summon energy, but it wasn't there. He wanted to be the older brother she deserved, someone dependable, patient, and engaged, but he couldn't even summon the motivation to stand. "Why can't I do anything right?" he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. At that exact moment, his phone buzzed. It was Jake, his childhood friend. Jake's life seemed impossibly vibrant in comparison. He was organized, active, and had somehow figured out how to stay disciplined. "Hey man, how's life?" Jake's cheerful voice sounded like sunlight through a storm cloud. Ethan shrugged, avoiding eye contact with his reflection in the darkened window. Same old, trying to do better, failing at it. Like usual. Jake chuckled softly. "You know, I used to be exactly like that. Totally stuck. But then I found a method. It's simple. Ridiculously simple. It's Japanese. Tiny steps, one at a time. Changed everything for me." Ethan frowned. "Tiny steps? That's it? I've tried everything. Diets, gyms, apps. Nothing works." "Exactly," Jake replied. "That's why it works. You don't need to fix everything at once. You need a system that respects who you are and builds on it. I can introduce you to someone who taught me. He's kind of a mentor figure. You'll see, it's life-changing." Ethan hesitated. It sounded too good to be true. But desperation has a way of loosening doubt. He agreed to meet the mentor the following week. When Ethan stepped into the small office, it felt almost like stepping into a different world. Sunlight streamed through a wide window, illuminating a tidy room with minimalist decor, a wooden table, 2 chairs, and a single bonsai tree on the shelf. It smelled faintly of incense. "Ethan," said Mr. Kenji Tanaka, entering with calm, deliberate movements, "tell me why you are here." Ethan launched into an honest confession: his exhaustion, his failed attempts at change, the shame he felt for letting Lily down, his frustration with himself. He expected advice about strict diets, exercise routines, or maybe apps to monitor every habit. Instead, Mr. Tanaka listened silently, nodding gently. When Ethan finished, he asked a single question. "How many times have you tried to change?" Ethan muttered, "Too many to count. A dozen? More? And how long did each attempt last?" "Few days, sometimes 2 weeks. Then I gave up." Mr. Tanaka's eyes were kind but firm. "Do you know why you failed?" Ethan's mind raced with excuses: lack of time, metabolism, being a teenager. But Mr. Tanaka shook his head. "No," he said softly. You failed because you tried to win a 10-year battle in 10 days. Habits form over years. They cannot be undone overnight. Change requires patience, small steps, and consistency. Ethan leaned forward, skeptical. So what do I do? Mr. Tanaka smiled. Drink a glass of water every morning. Before anything else. That's it. For 2 weeks. Nothing more. Ethan blinked. Just water? Yes. The point isn't the water. It's proving to yourself that you can keep a promise. Once you trust yourself with one small thing, you can build on it. Ethan nodded slowly. It felt absurd. Yet, for the first time in months, he had a tiny spark of hope. One small promise, one small action, and maybe, just maybe, a life could start to change. The next morning, Ethan filled a glass of water, feeling the cool liquid trickle down his throat. It was astonishingly simple. Nothing changed immediately, no surge of energy, no sudden clarity, but he felt a subtle shift, a quiet sense of accomplishment. For the first time in months, he had done exactly what he promised himself. Day 2, he did the same. Day 3, his body expected it. Drinking water before breakfast became less a chore and more a ritual. A small anchor in the chaos of his teenage life. By the end of the week, the sense of control grew stronger, like a tiny spark building into a steady flame. On the 8th day, Lily peeked into the kitchen. "You're drinking water again?" she asked, tilting her head, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "Yep," Ethan replied, smiling faintly. "Every morning." Her grin widened. "Good. I like that you're keeping promises now." Ethan's chest swelled with unexpected pride. Her words, innocent yet profound, reminded him why he wanted to change in the first place, not for appearances, not for grades, but for moments like this, connecting, being present, being someone they could rely on. When he returned to Mr. Tanaka's office 2 weeks later, the mentor's calm gaze met him. "You've done the first step," he said simply. "Now, we add another." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Another glass of water?" Mr. Tanaka shook his head with a faint smile. "No, a meal. Just one meal a day. Make it healthier, smaller, mindful. Pay attention to it. That's all. Nothing drastic. This is Harahachi Bu, the principle of eating until 80% full. Your body and mind will begin to notice the difference." Ethan hesitated. Just one meal? Could something so small really matter? But he trusted Mr. Tanaka's method. He began with dinner, a plate with more vegetables than usual, modest portions of protein, and a deliberate pause between bites. At first, his brain protested. "Eat more. You're still hungry." He wanted to reach for snacks afterward, but he waited. 20 minutes passed. His hunger waned. It wasn't deprivation, it was awareness. A small victory that slowly rewired his relationship with food. The next step was movement. 10 minutes a day. Not a marathon, not a gym session, just a walk after school. Ethan dreaded it at first, dragging his feet to the front door. Then, Lily ran ahead, laughter trailing behind her. "Come on, Ethan, let's see if you can keep up," she called. He jogged to catch her, feeling wind in his hair, the tension in his shoulders easing with each step. By the 3rd day, he started noticing small details on the route he had never seen, the pattern of shadows across the sidewalk, the scent of freshly cut grass, the chatter of birds in the trees. His mind, usually clouded by worry and distraction, began to focus. "You're getting faster," Lily said one afternoon, panting. "See? You can do it." Ethan laughed, a sound rusty from disuse. "Yeah, maybe I can." Over the next few weeks, the small actions accumulated. Drinking water, mindful meals, 10-minute walks, each day built upon the last. The changes were subtle, almost invisible to anyone else, but Ethan felt them in a way no scale or mirror could measure. More energy, less irritability, growing confidence. Social challenges appeared quickly. A weekend sleepover with friends brought pizza, soda, and video games. The temptation to relapse was overwhelming. Ethan's old habits whispered, urging him to give in. For a moment, he felt the familiar weight of failure pressing on his chest. Then he remembered Mr. Tanaka's words. Stumbling is not failing. What matters is getting back up. He ate slowly, took only what he needed, and stepped outside for a brief walk before returning to the house. That small choice, seemingly inconsequential, reinforced a critical lesson. He could choose differently even in the face of temptation. The power wasn't in perfection, it was in consistency. As months passed, Ethan began noticing the deeper impact of these small victories. His relationship with Lily transformed. She started confiding in him, sharing secrets about school, friends, and her small anxieties. Conversations that had once been strained became moments of connection and joy. At school, he experienced similar growth, completing homework on time, participating in class, and engaging with peers were no longer daunting tasks. He discovered that the principles he applied to food and exercise, patience, awareness, consistency, translated to every area of life. By the 9th month, Ethan had lost noticeable weight, but more importantly, he carried himself differently. His posture improved, his energy returned, and his mood stabilized. Teachers commented on his renewed participation. Friends noticed his focus and determination. But the real transformation, Ethan realized, wasn't in the external changes. It was internal. He was no longer the boy who felt powerless over his habits. He was someone who could act, persist, and change. One glass of water, one small meal, one short walk at a time. Ethan's journey, guided by Mr. Tanaka's philosophy, was proving something profound. Real change wasn't about massive, overnight transformations. It was about building trust in oneself through small, deliberate actions. Each victory, no matter how minor, was a brick in the foundation of a new identity, someone capable, reliable, and alive to the present moment. And with that realization, Ethan felt a quiet, steady hope begin to grow, a hope that tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, he could keep building the life he wanted, one small step at a time. 2 years had passed since Ethan Miller first drank that morning glass of water. He had grown taller, leaner, and stronger, but those changes were only the surface. The real transformation ran deeper. In habits, mindset, and identity, each small step had compounded into something bigger, something sustainable. He no longer struggled to trust himself. He had learned that change didn't come from bursts of motivation, but from consistency and patience. His mornings followed a quiet routine: water, a balanced breakfast, and a short walk with Lily. Sometimes, his mother joined them before leaving for work. The streets they walked were no longer just sidewalks, they were pathways to presence, to conversation, to life unfolding around them. Lily would chatter about school, her favorite books, or her friends, and Ethan would respond with attention, curiosity, and care. Their bond had grown stronger than he ever imagined, rooted in shared effort and accountability. School became a place of progress, not pressure. Ethan joined the student council, helped younger students with homework, and even started a small club dedicated to mindfulness and small habit building. His classmates noticed the change, not just the physical improvement, but the calm, grounded energy he carried. His identity had shifted. He was no longer the distracted, lazy kid. He was someone capable of building consistency and keeping promises, to himself and to others. Challenges still appeared. Tests, social events, and occasional setbacks threatened his routines. One Saturday, during a neighborhood barbecue, he saw friends loaded with pizza, chips, and sugary drinks. For a moment, old habits whispered, tempting him to abandon his carefully cultivated practices. But he paused, reminded of Mr. Tanaka's teaching: perfection is not required. What matters is getting back up after a stumble. He ate mindfully, chose water over soda, and took a short walk around the block afterward. One small choice at a time. He was reaffirming his transformation. Ethan's progress inspired those around him. Lily began exercising alongside him, making small changes to her own habits. Their mother, Karen, noticed the ripple effect. Family dinners became more mindful, conversation more intentional, and the household atmosphere calmer and more connected. Change, Ethan realized, was contagious, not through pressure or preaching, but through demonstration. The most significant moment came unexpectedly during a school assembly. A younger student, struggling with procrastination and self-doubt, approached him afterward. "Ethan, how did you change so much?" "I've tried, and it never works," the boy admitted. Ethan smiled, remembering the simplicity of his first step. Start with the smallest thing you can do. He said, one action, one promise to yourself. Keep it for 2 weeks. That's it. Then build from there. Tiny steps. Every day, they add up to real change. The boy nodded slowly. Inspired, Ethan realized then that Mr. Tanaka's lesson wasn't just for him, it was universal. It could help anyone, anywhere, willing to start small and remain consistent. By the end of high school, Ethan had become a mentor in his own right. His body was healthier, yes, but the true transformation was his mind and identity. He had learned that discipline wasn't about sheer willpower or extreme measures, it was about consistency, patience, and incremental improvements. Habits had become part of who he was, not a struggle he had to endure. The Japanese method he had learned, the wisdom distilled from Kaizen, Harahachi Bu, Wabi Sabi, Gambaru, and Ikigai, had created a ripple effect, not just in his life, but in the lives of those around him. A single glass of water, a mindful meal, a short walk, seemingly insignificant at first, had transformed his world. Ethan's story carries a simple, yet powerful lesson. Lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It begins with one small step, taken consistently, even when it feels trivial or too easy. Success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Trust yourself to keep a promise, and that trust becomes the foundation of your new identity. One step at a time, one day at a time, you can build the life you want. To all of you watching, take a moment today. Identify the smallest action you can do, just one, and commit to it for 2 weeks. Drink a glass of water. Write one page. Take one walk. Meditate for 1 minute. The magic isn't in the action itself. It's in proving to yourself that change is possible. And that you can trust yourself. Thank you for staying with Ethan's journey from struggle to transformation. If this story inspired you or made you reflect on your own habits, please leave a comment below and share the first small step you're going to take starting tomorrow. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories that guide and inspire real change. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to start and keep going.